going to introduce Camielle Fishel and Gina Horne. I thought that said home there, but Horne. They're going to be talking to us about continuous labor support and their policy that they put together for their hospital. They both practice at Baptist Memorial Hospital for Women and Children. This is a freestanding women's and children's hospital, a tertiary care center, and they're located in Memphis, Tennessee. So we're excited to have one of our neighbor state, spend some time with us and talk about the work that they're doing to provide continuous labor support to their patients. And so Gina and Camielle, I'll let you guys take it.
Hey, this is Camielle, and we're in Memphis. Just wanted to let you know that this is going to be a hard presentation to follow. And I think listening to this, I think we're a little bit behind in the state of Tennessee, but we are working hard to try to fix that. Just wanted to let you know kind of a couple things that we decided, especially after the pandemic, about some of the things that we needed to do here at Baptist Women's. Okay, next slide. All right, I guess this is us. We got together, we knew we needed to meet with our community doulas for involvement. We needed to involve them more in our promotion for vaginal birth, and we needed to involve them more in our daily practice. We found that during the pandemic, as we were limiting visitors, we found that doulas were coming out of the woodwork. I think everyone's mother, everyone's cousin, everyone's sister decided we were requiring certificates, but I think they were taking a 6-hour course online and coming, which we understood. We knew that people needed labor support. So after the pandemic was over and we started opening up our hospital again, we decided that we really needed to come up with some wording and an orientation. So we decided we would come up with an orientation program. We wanted all of our doulas to have the same wording, have the same orientation. So I feel like we're unique in that way, is that before you can come and practice as a doula, we ask you to come to our orientation. We go ahead and next slide. We go ahead and orientate you with what we've done. We go through a formal doula process. We've asked them to all come in. We started at the end of July when we started opening up the hospital after the pandemic. We had several dates. We contacted as many people that we knew that were certified doulas. We had a non-employee orientation process. What we did do, and we talked about how we would do it, is we gave everyone an ID. We took them down to security. We gave them a picture ID. We identified them as a doula. You'll see our badge in a minute in a slide. We talked to them all about our neglect and exploitation policy. We talked about our continuous labor support policy. We've talked all about our services, benefits, and classes that our patients go through. We went through our current visitor policy to the doulas. We communicated all to the patients upon admission that the doula is our second support person, and the do's and don'ts. We felt like at some point during the pandemic, some of our physicians were frustrated with giving medical advice, and people were not certified, not gone through, and were giving the patient saying, wait a minute, let's don't do that. Let's do something different. So some of our providers were giving us some frustration toward that. So then we decided, let's go ahead and let's word this to say that you are here for the patient. We value you and your labor support. And we try to word it as you're here on the labor team. So next slide. Again, we tried to collect our certification paperwork. And again, everyone in the city knows now that if you want to come through and be a doula and a part of our support team, and we know we are very well aware with the ones that practice here frequently. They wear a badge and that's created in a badge mate that they are designated and they are recognized as part of the team. And they know that we have their paperwork, and we do have a little file on record as their competencies and their orientation. We've communicated with the staff that these doulas have gone through a little orientation process and the process for their L&D, that they'll be allowed to switch out with the support person. In triage, we have very small rooms. Tell her I will call her back. Sorry, we're also in the middle of a very busy day here at Women's. That we will switch out with the support person. In our triage, we have very small rooms. So we were having trouble with if we were having to labor our patients in triage. So of course, then our patients were frustrated that they weren't able to have their doula with them because it was taking hours to get rooms. And so we are letting the support person and the doula in our triage. But however, that has so much better after the pandemic, after our staffing has gotten so much better. They are able to come in. We're not having to worry about that as much. We're also letting the doula go to the PACU with the baby and switch out with the dad. So we are excited that we're letting the doula come into the PACU if they have a C-section. They do come up, and during the transition period, in the postpartum period, they can come up to the patient with the patient and their support person. So that's something new that they've never been able to do. So we're excited about that. So next slide. Again, here's this is a little badge mate that hangs down from their picture, and it has Baptist and their picture, and they're clearly identified as someone as part of the team. Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to Gina.
Good morning. So as Camielle mentioned, during our orientation process for the doula, we go over several policies. The first one is patient identification policy. We go over the connectivity policy. We go over the abuse and neglect, but mostly we review the continuous labor support policy with them so that they're aware of things that we have in place here for the doula. The continuous labor support policy we drafted as a part of several initiatives that we had going on, but mainly part of our promotion for vaginal birth initiative, our performance improvement initiative. We included one of our community doulas in this group where we meet bi-weekly to talk about what we can do to provide labor support in order to possibly reduce our primary C-section rate. So what happened was Camielle was commissioned as a part of this group to do some research, look at sources that were available regarding continuous labor support with A1, with current literature, and draft up a little policy. And the policy really is not a doula policy. It's really a policy for continuous labor support for the RN, for the healthcare team, and including the doula as part of the healthcare team. So we looked at a lot of different things with regard to this policy, but mostly just focusing on support of the laboring patient and including the very special role of the doula with that. And in addition to that, we wanted to make sure that our nurses and our providers were educated with the elements of this policy so that they have an understanding of what the role of the doula really is, because a lot of our staff didn't know. We were having more doulas to come into our facility as a part of the team and with the patient, and the nurses and the providers were a little bit unclear as to, what role that they have with the care of the patient. So we drafted our policy. And we included parts for the registered nurse, for nursing leadership, and for the doula. And then we included the written birth plan and the role that the birth plan would play with regard to the continued care of the patient and the patient-centeredness of the care that we give our patients. Next slide. And so our primary source document was this A1 position statement for continuous labor support for every woman, because A1 is very supportive of the role of the doula, as well as everything that we can do to make it a patient-centered experience. We also, as Lindy mentioned in her presentation, we have a very diverse population here in Tennessee. We have a significant Medicaid population, and we would love to see Tennessee Medicaid or TennCare adopt reimbursement for doula support. We would love to have more doula support. I would be very supportive of a hospital-based program or any community-based program. But right now in this facility, we are primarily, our doulas are mostly private doulas that are hired by the patient. So we would really love to see an expansion of the role of the doula, because as I try to mention to the nurses, the doula is here to be with the patient and support the patient, but they are a great help to the nurse, because as this document mentions, the nurse is challenged by competing priorities. We are a very tertiary care facility. We have high acuity patients, and there is a greater attention to technology, much more comprehensive requirements regarding documentation by the nurse. And so the doula can be very instrumental in helping the nurse to care for our patients and to promote position changing and what we've learned in spinning babies, and with helping to reduce the C-section rate. And as Lindy mentioned that also, that it really, the doula has done a lot to reduce the C-section rate and to promote a shorter labor, to reduce oxytocin use, to help with pain relief and create a more positive birth experience. So we are very supportive of the role of the doula. Next slide. And so we have a little flyer and information that we can give the patient, and it not only includes labor support, but it includes other things that we offer to the patient here at Baptist. Next slide. Some of our initiatives that we have offered here over time, we promoted the quantification of blood loss here in Tennessee and at Baptist Women's. We had an initiative for optimal cord clamping, for the treatment of severe hypertension in pregnancy and postpartum. We had an initiative for safe sleep of the infant, and we are really working on our safe reduction of primary C-section birth, and that's where we can incorporate the care of the doula most effectively, is with that initiative. But we are really working on a patient-centered experience with all of our initiatives. Next slide. And then our classes, and we did talk to our doulas in orientation about the classes that we offer. We encourage the doula, if possible, to be involved in our classes and with attending the class with the patient, if that's beneficial for the patient. And we offer a number of classes here. Next slide. Okay, so we had a spinning babies class here. We actually hosted a spinning babies class. We had 30 participants in our class. Some of our providers attended the class. A lot of our nursing staff attended the class, and we opened it up to the community as well. And so we learned a lot with regard to positioning in childbirth. And our instructor was actually a practicing doula. And so is a very eye-opening experience for us. And so the nurses now are actually incorporating these techniques in the care of the patient during labor. We would love, like I said, to offer a hospital-based program so that we could have doula staff in the hospital all the time for our patients that can't afford to hire a private doula to try to incorporate some of these techniques.
This class was actually a grant through our Tennessee Quality Collaborative.
Yes, it was through the TIPQC. They actually funded this Spinning Babies class for our staff and for the community. It was really a positive experience. Next slide. We purchased some of these birthing chairs for use, and we've had some of our doulas to use this chair, and our nursing staff to use this chair for the promotion of descent during labor for some of our patients. Next slide. We also have many birthing balls, almost one for every room actually. And we use them for the relief of pain and for the reduction of pelvic pressure and for the aid of fetal descent as we do our peanut balls. Next slide. We use our peanut balls, and you know, this was really kind of funny. When we first got our peanut balls, many of our providers and some of our nursing staff, you know, kind of made fun a little bit. You know, well, what are we going to do with these? You know, and well, what are these for? And, you know, and now we have doctors to actually, you know, ask for the peanut ball, put them on the peanut, you know, and it's like a doctor's order, you know, well, let's let her labor down with the peanut, you know, and it's really helped. And our doulas are very supportive users of the peanut ball. Next slide. Another thing that we did through our Promotion for Vaginal Birth initiative is that we started allowing drinks and popsicle. Well, we have been allowing popsicles, but we started allowing drinks during labor, anything that is relatively clear, as a source of carbohydrate for energy for the patient in labor. It just kind of went along with our initiative, and our doulas, of course, were very supportive of that. And then we have that in our labor policy. We don't have it in our continuous labor support policy, but we do have it as a part of our labor policy. Next slide. Oh, okay. Well, that was my last slide. So, so what I would encourage is that when you're you know, creating your policies for labor support or for doula support, that you include a lot of these things that are part of your Promotion for Vaginal Birth initiative, because these things are very much supported by the doula and for continuous labor support.
Another thing too, I feel like we've gotten so much positive comments and for the inclusion of the doula in an orientation and an inclusion for the badges and a recognition of being part of the team. So when they walk into a room, they have a Baptist badge on, they're recognized as everyone is part of the team. I think that's been the kind of our biggest takeaway, as just an inclusion as part of the team. So I think that's been our biggest takeaway, is our little orientation for them. They feel, and I think that was our biggest win.
Thank you, Gina and Camielle. It's exciting to see the work that you're doing you know, starting with knowing that you needed to address and have that policy around continuous labor support, and then including an orientation, which I think speaks volumes to saying like, hey, we want to welcome you here into our area. And it, you know, one of my thoughts when you were talking about that is, have you seen a change in maybe perceptions or you know, healthcare providers' understanding of doula care since they've been able to be on the floor and be identified as a doula and work and recognized as part of the
I'll
healthcare
tell you,
team?
since this, we have had many less complaints from providers.
Okay.
Oh, I think providers have been much more supportive
Yes,
of the doula, since we have brought it to the forefront, how the doula can be beneficial
right.
for the promotion of vaginal birth and for patient-centered care in general. But yeah, I think it's really been a benefit to have them as part of the team. And what you really need to focus on is a collegial relationship. Everyone's part of the team. This is a patient-centered experience, and we hope to make it a much more diverse patient-centered experience so that all communities and all populations can benefit from this part of the labor experience, because we don't want it to you know, be beneficial for some and not for others. We want everything to be inclusive. So hopefully we will be able to make our case for reimbursement when we are able to collect some data on how the doula can promote the vaginal birth experience and can contribute to the vaginal birth experience and the reduction of primary C-section birth.